This is recording number 4, and I'm back here with John. And in the past week, John and I have discussed working on some goals. So, John, tell me about how your goal making went as far as spending more time with your mother.
Well,
Talk loud.
well, it was good. I spent some time by myself and with my mom, just like we talked about previously.
So, what did you guys do?
Well, we watched movies, um, things along those lines.
Did you go to the beach like you and your mom? That's what you like to do together?
We actually did. It was a pretty packed beach, a lot of people hanging out, drinking.
So, did other people drinking at the beach make you feel a certain way since you are trying to quit drinking?
It did. It made me miss it a little bit. I kind of wish that was me.
So, how did you cope with, what did you have to tell yourself so that you didn't give in to the temptation of wanting to drink?
Well, to be quite honest, like having my mom there,
Your mom.
not wanting to disappoint her, that kind of definitely.
How does she feel about you not drinking and using drugs and trying to get yourself clean for this probation?
Oh, she loves it. She's always telling me that it's bringing us closer together and that she wants the best for me, but it still doesn't make it 100%. See?
I understand. So, what did you have to tell yourself when you were at the beach to say, you know what, John, I don't want to drink, this is not good, what I'm supposed to be doing?
Just wanting a better life, not having to depend on something, to be happy every day. Maybe spending not only time with my mom, but other relatives and friends in my life as well.
So, today, how are you feeling?
I feel better. Still definitely a struggle each day, but I think I've come a long way, especially this weekend.
So, what is going on currently with you? You seem a little bit distracted.
No, I wouldn't consider myself distracted. You know.
So, have your friends said anything to you that you haven't been around?
Oh, certainly. I feel like I'm kind of almost like, disconnecting myself from them. I don't really know what's going on in their lives as much just because we don't spend a lot of time together now.
So, how does that make you feel?
Kind of makes me feel like shit.
Doesn't make you feel very good?
No, still, I was like close to those people for a long time, like regardless of what our activities were, whether it be using or drinking. It's still like they're still your friends. They still kind of hold a place in your heart.
And I completely understand that. I mean, you've been with them from, most of your high school life, and do you think it's possible if you don't completely remove yourself from them, if you hang out with them and just not partake in the substance use like they do? Is that possible for you at this point?
Not right now, no.
So being with them would definitely be a trigger for your substance use.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think I can do it right now. Maybe down the line, but being with them, I think I would just want to use again. That's all they do. Can't really be around it.
Yeah, speak a little louder.
Can't really be around it when I'm trying to quit, so.
So how has your mood been?
It's a little bit all over the place. There's certainly days where I'm just angry. There's certainly days where I'm kind of coping with a little better.
So what have you been doing to cope?
Taking time to relax. I'll go for like a morning stroll. Grab a coffee.
That's good. And last week we talked about your anxiety and your depression and wanting to come up with different coping mechanisms. So how do you feel like your anxiety is at this current moment?
I would say it's better. It's definitely still, prominent. I can cope with it, but it's definitely still like an ongoing struggle.
Have you been doing anything particular to cope with your anxiety?
Kind of just calming down.
Okay. So,
You know, when I start to get it, I'd take some time.
so I want to go over with you. You know, you've been doing really well with completing your goals.
Mhm.
So I think it's important that we go over some coping mechanisms for when you're feeling anxious or depressed.
Mhm.
So I want to do a quick exercise with you,
Mhm.
and this is something that you could use whenever you're feeling anxious and you feel like you need to clear your mind because your mind is just too much stuff running through it.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard to focus on your task when you have too many things going through your mind.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm going to explain to you this technique, and I
Mhm.
want to know how you feel about it. So let's try to do it now together.
Okay.
Do you feel comfortable with that?
That's fine.
Okay. So I want you to pick something in my office. Pick something in this room to focus on.
Okay.
And I want you to stare
Mhm.
and watch that focus plane.
Okay.
And all I want you to do while you're focusing on whatever you're choosing to focus on
Mhm.
is to listen to the noise around you,
Mhm.
focus on your breathing,
Okay.
and try not to think about anything. And if there's a thought that comes into your mind,
Mhm.
try to let it just go in and out.
Okay.
So take a second
Mhm.
to focus on an object. So
Mhm.
what in my office would you like to focus on?
I guess maybe that lamp.
The lamp, okay. So take a second. You can close your eyes if you need to.
Okay.
And, focus on the lamp.
Mhm.
And when you're focusing on the lamp, take in your surroundings and your breathing.
Okay. That
So
works.
do that for a second.
Okay.
Ready? We'll do it together. Ready?
Mhm.
And I'll look at that picture over there.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. And focus on your breathing. And listening to yourself exhale and inhale. Listen to the sounds around you. Listen to the sound of the air conditioner and the sounds of your breathing. And not focus on anything else but that lamp, your breathing, and the noises surrounding you. And just take a second. Now, how do you feel now?
I feel much more relaxed.
You feel relaxed. So tell me what makes you feel relaxed. What did the exercise do for you as far as controlling your anxiety?
It calmed me down.
So focusing on a specific point
Right.
and focusing on just your breathing.
Mhm.
And it's okay to have thoughts run through your mind at this point, but to just let them kind of pass through like clouds.
Mhm.
How do you feel?
Feel better. It's like even focusing on the light, kind of.
Did it kind of stop your mind from thinking about all the anxious thoughts and the mind racing and everything else that's kind of going on right now?
It did. I think I was just so focused on, a certain object as well as like kind of controlling my breathing that it made me just kind of disregard what I was thinking about previously.
So is this something that you feel like you could do on your own at home? So, for example, sometimes anxiety comes when you least expect it. It could just come out of nowhere. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, for sure.
So if you feel that way, you could take a second, and if your mind has too many thoughts and you're thinking about too many things, it's important that you find a place in your home where you're comfortable.
Right.
So, for example, I want to do this exercise, you know, sitting on the floor. I would do this either laying in bed, sitting at a couch, something comfortable. You need to be comfortable to do so.
Right.
And, giving yourself that few minutes to just focus on other things besides everything that's running through your mind. People think it's silly, to say, oh, focus on a task and listen to your thoughts and see how you feel, but it does make a small difference.
You're right.
So, Do you feel like this is something that you can do on your own at home when you're feeling anxious?
I think I definitely can, especially when I'm by myself.
It's very simple, very easy. How do you feel now?
Relaxed.
Relaxed. You still seem a little bit distracted.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind?
A lot of different things.
Such as,
Can I really quit?
can you really quit? Well, let me ask you this. Did you use substances at all in the last week?
I didn't.
So did you quit?
I think it's an ongoing battle.
I think that the longer that you focus on the positives and you focus on spending time with your mother and doing positive things, the easier it will be to quit. They say that, after a few weeks of doing something habitually, it sticks.
Right.
Now, my only concern for you is that I don't want you to isolate yourself.
For my friends?
Just in general, do you know what isolating means?
Yeah, kind of removing yourself
from anybody.
Right.
So, do you feel like you've been isolating?
I think a little bit. I think I need it though.
Do you think that maybe we should focus on doing activities that you enjoy? You mentioned that you like swimming and hiking. So another way to fight anxiety and depression is to do things that you enjoy.
Yeah, definitely.
So to maybe keep your mind distracted, do you think it would be helpful to maybe, put in an extra workout a day, or, go for an extra hike a day, or things like that?
I think so, especially maybe the hiking. I think that could definitely get my mind off things.
And last week we spoke about maybe trying to become friends with the group that you associate yourself when you're swimming or hiking. Have you been able to focus on that task at all in the past week?
I think I've been wanting to. I don't think it's definitely been 100% completed. I think it's something
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
So, what is it now? And I'm very, happy that you've been successful in completing your goals so far in the last few weeks. Now that you have not used for about 2 weeks now, what do you think is the next step, the next goal for you to work on?
Not using for another 2 weeks after that.
Another 2 weeks. So how do you plan on doing that, at least for the next week?
Getting accustomed to other activities besides using, so like you mentioned before, be hanging out with my mother, but as well as not isolating myself. So maybe kind of finding a new group that would partake in those activities with me.
Do you feel like it's acceptable to have friends that don't use drugs and alcohol?
I think it's acceptable. I think it's hard, especially
How do you feel like your current friends will feel when you explain to them that you no longer want to use or drink?
I think they'll be confused.
They'll be confused.
Yeah.
But if they were true friends, don't you think that they would support you in your decision not to drink and use drugs anymore?
I think so. I think it's hard for someone to make that decision who is using though. I mean, I know I've been there. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see on that.
Now, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is your depression.
Okay.
How do you feel you are doing ever since I referred you to the doctor to, think about maybe some prescriptions for your depression?
Can you repeat that?
How do you feel about your depression currently? I know I referred you to see a doctor regarding getting medication for your depression. How do you feel like your depression is playing a part in your current goals and trying to quit and getting towards going to the military and getting off this probation?
I mean, it's definitely made it harder.
It's made it harder.
A lot harder.
Now that you have a coping mechanism for your anxiety, is there something that you can think of doing that can control your depression?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a harder task, but I find that I'm most depressed when I'm alone.
Depressed when you're alone. So what is something that you think you can do when you're alone to get yourself motivated to get up and get active and not be depressed? Because unfortunately what some people do when they're depressed is they isolate.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. I mean, I don't want to say that, like, hanging out with someone is the only way to cure it, but, not cure it, but I think maybe just kind of focusing on the larger picture at hand.
So really looking at that long-term goal of, doing what you need to do to get into the military.
Right.
So what do you do currently to cope with your depression?
I try to think about the long-term goal.
And I can see that you're very motivated, which is great. It's great to see such motivation in you and that you're really determined to reach your goals. And I think it's very important for anybody to have goals and to want to reach far to get to those goals. And unfortunately you are in this little hiccup where your goals are on pause, but it's nice to see that you are active and wanting to reach those goals.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how do you feel you're doing so far as our therapy sessions so far?
Definitely come a long way.
Do you feel like what have you learned so far? What skills have you been able to take back home to cope while you're gone and you're not seeing me for the week?
Mostly, kind of like you were saying before, controlling my anxiety. I think that's a big part. Kind of just coming to peace with myself, and even if it is focusing on an object and just taking time to breathe, just kind of calming myself down, like physically and mentally.
And I really think it's important to always do something for ourselves. These days we're so busy working towards working or completing assignments or trying really hard to please others, but it's really important that we step back sometimes and think about what we want to do to please ourselves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
So, I think that you getting involved with your hiking again and getting involved in swimming is really important. And it seems like your mom has been a big support for you.
She definitely has. She's definitely helped in my progression.
Is she kind of in the background of your goal to reach where you want to be today so that you do this for your mother?
Yeah, just like I think going back to what I previously stated, it's like she kind of helps me realize that I can not only do it, but I want to do it. I want to do it for her too.
It's great.
I've definitely put her through a lot with this, so.
So as we come to the end of our session, tell me what you want to work on in the next week, because I think that we've been successful in setting goals, and I think that's been really helpful for you. Do you agree?
I completely agree. I think probably the most important one is kind of coping with my depression at the moment.
Okay, so what do you plan on doing in the next week to take time for yourself and to cope with your depression?
Well, just like you said, kind of taking time for myself, focusing on myself, but also not isolating myself at the same time. Kind of realizing I do have, a support group out there. And that's once again is like the larger picture, getting clean, and always having those people with me.
And I think you're doing very, very well so far in therapy, even though, you seem a little distracted at some points, but that's definitely understandable. I'm really happy to see that you have this goal and you're really dedicated to reaching it, and it's definitely great that you're working towards this goal and doing anything that you can to complete it. So, just take some time for yourself this week to try to achieve your goal of working on your depression and working on what makes you you and doing what makes John happy.
Right.
Because in this world today, we're so busy with trying to please other people. For example, you're trying to please your probation officers.
Right.
and, you know, try to be good for them. So I think it's just really important that you do something for yourself this week.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I agree with that.
Do you have any questions before we end for the day?
I think that's about everything.
So then I will see you next week, and I look forward to seeing how your week went and to see if you were able to accomplish your goal.
I look forward to it as well.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.